It sucks to be a white American. Now hold on, give me a chance, let me explain. I want you to think of the kind of person who would put on a White Lives Matter sticker on the back of their Ford pickup. Why do they do that? Is it all racism? Well, yeah. But I think it goes a lot deeper than that. White Americans basically have no culture, not in the same way we see other people. And we white people, we know this inherently, and it scares us. We know we have our regional cultures. Our cities, our sports teams, and families all give us our regional culture, but being white basically means nothing, or generally at least nothing positive. White people throughout American history are almost always seen on the side of the oppressors. Not all white people, but most of us. And this sucks to learn. It's even harder to internalize. And it's why white people usually don't accept this, because it makes us feel a deep sense of guilt.
Hello wonderful people, welcome once again to another episode on my YouTube channel. I'm Marvin, and if you're new to this channel, feel free to click the subscribe icon and like my videos. Our focus today will be on white Americans. From this first video, we get to see how it sucks to be a white American. This mainly comes from white Americans, not necessarily from the black community. White privilege doesn't exist. From black Americans' perspective, disliking white people for doing evil things is not racism. White people want history erased to make their kids more comfortable. White men and women are actually realizing they made a mistake and black people were right all along. Imagine going to church and you are told that you need to apologize to black people for being white. That shows how it sucks to be a white American. They are all being exposed for their wrongdoing. Look at what is happening in America right now. Black people facing discrimination and being called N-word point blank. Instead, white people don't have a culture. Let's watch the following videos to get a clear view of what I am talking about. Make sure to watch to the end.
I think it's why white people say nonsense like, I can't be racist, I have black friends. Sure, you probably don't see black people as objects, but you're refusing to accept the role our people have had in their oppression. That guilt we feel is our responsibility for the actions of our ancestors. It's why white people refuse to say that black people deserve reparation, because it admits our guilt. But black people deserve reparations. It just makes sense logically. You can sue someone for scratching your car, but black people can't sue the American government for the enslavement of their people. My people are arresting and deporting Mexican families from this country. Think about that. We are telling people that they are not allowed on the land we stole. Let's go a step further. White people stole a sacred land site from the people indigenous to this land and then carved 4 white people's faces on it, most of which were slave owners. I mean, Mount Rushmore is a place that we look at and we're like, oh cool, giant faces. But to other people, it's a giant form of oppression, and admitting that and coming to terms with that sucks. We suck, dude. My people really and truly suck. Not all of us contributed to this oppression, but we are all a part of it. And this will mostly sound like virtue signaling. It will mostly sound like, look at how rough we are. But there is a reality to admitting this guilt and being honest with it. Because white people are afraid to do this. And we're afraid to admit it because my people are weak. White people are weak. We have power we have given ourselves and put down the cultures that are stronger than us because we know that we're weak. If white Americans were oppressed the same way black, native, or Mexican American people are, we would crack like glass. Our culture and identity as white people is so meaningless that we do everything in our power to keep other people down so that we don't break from having someone else on top. I think that's why you see white Americans championing white pride, not just out of ignorance or racism, but it's because they are scared. They're scared to come to terms with their guilt, scared to admit they're wrong, and terrified to acknowledge that we may have all the societal, economic, and political power, but as a people we are weak. But this isn't the way it has to be forever. I have hope that one day my people will finally take responsibility for what we have done. I hope that we'll collectively accept our role in the oppression of our non-white brothers and sisters and finally take action. And it will take the action of us white folks. It's not just non-white people that have to fight for their rights. It's us too fighting for them, because our cross to bear is being born white. Being born with the skin color of the oppressors means that we have to fight to be nothing like them. We're not near that right now. America is in a tumultuous stage where it very much does not feel like white people are acknowledging where they went wrong. But I want to have hope, and I refuse to accept that one day justice won't prevail. Collectively, we can all shed the shadow of oppression and share this place together. And that's the message I want to end with. I want to be hopeful that one day oppression will be something taught in history class, something that we don't have to see ourselves in. That's what I hope. Anyway, I want to be optimistic in the end. Anyway, that's it. Thanks.
I don't know how you think that being white makes you better when white skin is the weakest skin you can have. I've gotten a sunburn from eating lunch indoors too close to a window. So, where am I superior? Underground? Is that... Like in the summer, I just have to avoid the sky. Like the whole sky. People invite me to something and I have to be like, is that a roofed or non-roofed event? Because... last summer I went to a cottage with my girlfriend's family, and the first day we were there, they wanted to go boating. That's what they call it. What they do is they park the boat in the middle of the lake, and then they drink 42 beers. So, oh good, you guys know boating. Good. That's good. Very nautical crowd here in Winnipeg. That's great. So they wanted to do this, and the boat didn't have a cover, and I realized that I forgot to bring sunblock, which is my mistake, yeah. But I asked if anybody else had some, and her uncle hands me SPF 15. And I was like, oh, great, that'll be really useful to me at dusk. So, do you have a daytime sunblock I could use, or? And they didn't. That was all they had. And so I knew I'd get scorched right away, so I made up an excuse. I said I had a headache and had to go lie down, and they all went without me. Yeah, do you know how embarrassing that is? To be too white to do white activities? That's like not being able to take a picture of your brunch because your iPhone is too full of Michael Bublé albums.
White people don't want slavery taught in school because they don't want their kids to feel guilty. I was having a conversation with an old conservative friend of mine that I used to have. We no longer talk. And it was about the erasure of the teaching of slavery in school. And he said he wholeheartedly supported them no longer teaching about slavery in school because he doesn't want his daughter to have to grow up feeling guilty about something that she never did. He supports erasing history, essentially, because he doesn't want his child to feel guilt because of the crimes of their ancestors. If you were wondering why, I'm sure you can kind of see why we're not friends anymore. And the whole thing is, your daughter wouldn't have to feel guilt if your parents, their parents, hell, if even you had worked on doing something, you and your peers worked on doing something to try to correct the wrongs that were done in the past. This is not me saying that there have not been things done to make life better for my people, but also if those things still don't outweigh the things that were done in the past, to a degree where you think that your child simply knowing what was done in the past is going to create a level of guilt that you are not comfortable with them having, them learning the history is not the problem here.
Only in the United States of America can you have an ethnic group or a group of people have things dedicated to them and they still turn around and call everybody else racist. In America, right, we have MLK Day, we have Juneteenth, these are both federal holidays, so everybody's off, right, for the most part. And we also have a whole month dedicated to Black Americans. And they'll still try to find a way, still play the victim card, and still say that the majority of white people are racist and that anything but black is racist. I want y'all to let that sink in for a second because I must be crazy for looking at it this way. Black History Month, a whole month dedicated to an ethnic group of people. 2 federal holidays in the year, every single year. They even have streets named after MLK. And these people will still turn around and call everybody in America racist. Now, I want you to do something. I want you to take that shoe and put it on the other foot. Let's say we lived in America and white people were the only ones who had a day dedicated to them or 2 federal holidays dedicated to them, and they had a whole month dedicated to them. I can't even begin to explain, or even, it's indescribable, the uproar and the turmoil that would erupt if that were the case. It would be like the city of Minneapolis when George Floyd died. That was just on my mind today. I just wanted to share that thought, which I'm thinking about it now. It's actually mind-blowing.
Something I've been thinking a lot about recently is how we as white people in America generally lack a sense of belonging towards a specific identity or culture. Meaning, because we essentially gave up our ancestry, gave up traditions and cultural things in Europe to be white Americans, we don't have a sense of identity, so we can tend to form groups that can sometimes be problematic because we want to feel a sense of belonging. And I'll kind of explain with examples what I mean. So if you think about like incels, for example, a lot of incels are like young white males or older, and I feel like generally they feel a sense of belonging and fitting in with other men that hate women. So it's like forming a sense of group identity, but around the hatred of another group. And I feel like this just like happens a lot with white supremacists too. Another example would be like a lot of white people find their identity through associating with a particular football team. Especially I like see this in the Midwest. It's like just a lot of people that are like very like, oh, I'm like a Packers fan, like I'm a Vikings fan, and you just like have this like undying like commitment to like a sports team, which I like truly don't understand, because like the sports team aren't even like from like the same state as like the state that they represent usually, but that's besides the point. The problem with that is like if your whole identity is based around like football and like your whole like social identity is interacting with other people around football, I mean, there's just like a lot that can negatively come from that. Namely, there's a lot of like, you know, drinking associated with, gambling associated with, and I'm not trying to necessarily say it's bad or shame anyone. You know, it's fine to like football, but what I'm trying to say is like a lot of times that these group identities that we form are just much different than having a group identity, say if you were connected well to your like Norwegian roots or Swedish roots. Like that to me is like what I've been like trying to get back into, because like I do like feel like a greater sense of purpose, like understanding my like cultural ancestral identity.
A quick story on how this white girl grew up in a completely white town, not taught anything but white. Let's get into it. Grew up in a very small town in Iowa, and its name is Storm Lake. This small town in Iowa, as I was growing up, I only saw white people. There were not any people of color in school. Wait, yes there was. There were 2 black guys, and they were adopted from one family. I didn't believe that there was Mexicans, but we weren't taught Mexican, so we didn't know what that was, okay? So we didn't know. It was only white, and that's all we knew. Until a big hailstorm hit that town one day, and the next thing you knew, there were Mexicans coming to town. I was like, oh my gosh, there's a Mexican. How cool. We're finally seeing a different culture. And then the Asians started to come slowly but surely, because in this town there was a pork plant and a turkey plant. So there was big manufacturing companies for people to come to this town and work. So slowly in my teenage years, I started seeing some Mexican, some Asian, and then I never saw black. But ironically, me and my best friend cruising around this small town one day, we call it cruising the loop. We actually saw this big, buff, beautiful, handsome, muscular man. And I was like, oh my God, girl, look at that guy. And we're all like, oh my God, and he's so tan, blah, 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 blah. So later that exact same day, we saw this beautiful tan man at a bar and discovered that he was not tan. He was black. But my God, was he beautiful. I actually married that first black man that I ever saw and didn't even realize he was black. I learned a lot from marrying and falling in love with this black man. I loved the culture. I loved how I loved all people. I loved just the way that they lived versus white. I mean, I'm sorry, people, but black guys, they got it going on, and they have a lot better parties, if you know what I'm saying. So the reality of this little past, blast from the past of mine is I got out of this little small town. I explored the world. I have learned that people are people, and you don't have to be white to make it. You can be black and be a happy person. You can be Asian. You can be anything. And they all are amazing cultures. So the people that are still stuck in this small town and they're little mega freaks, they haven't understood or had the opportunity to be able to see what the world really is, instead of just a boring little white people town.
Okay, I have to reply to this one by video because you've claimed some things as white culture that aren't white culture, unfortunately. It's the reason that people say, not just black people, but black people do say, that American culture is black culture. So I jotted some things down. I just Googled because I knew. So I Googled and took the first thing that came up. Didn't have to search for it. Barbecue. No, barbecue is not considered white culture. The roots of barbecue in the United States are deeply connected to African American culture, with enslaved people playing a significant role in developing the cooking techniques and traditions we now associate with barbecue, particularly in the American South. While often associated with a predominantly white cowboy image in popular culture, bull riding is not inherently white culture, as its roots lie in Mexican traditions. And historically, a significant number of black cowboys participated in rodeo. Therefore, the sport has a diverse cultural background and shouldn't be considered solely as white culture. Yes, black people created country music by bringing West African instruments, religious songs, and work songs to America. And I know all of you haters of Cowboy Carter who say that why should she be singing country don't want to hear this, but I just simply did a Google search, and this is what it said. Instruments. The banjo, a descendant of the West African lute, was a central part of enslaved people's music. Black fiddlers incorporated African melodies and traditions into their playing. Early hillbilly artists played songs inherited from black sources, such as slave spirituals, field songs, and religious hymnals. But you do get one. Yes, Classical music is widely considered to be associated with white culture due to its origins in Western Europe, where it was historically developed and promoted by predominantly white elites, leading to a perception that the genre is intrinsically linked to whiteness, and often excluding composers and performers of color from the mainstream. And on that note, if you haven't seen Chevalier, a black man in France who became prominently known, but is taken out of the history books. You should check it out. I think it's still streaming somewhere. Chevalier. So, is American culture black culture? Kind of seems like it to me. Again, I'm not trying to... I just want the truth to be... Our history needs to be told. Our history is so hidden, and it needs to be told. So I'm just telling the history that I know in my heart, and that Google knows. That's all I'm saying.
Without black Americans, white Americans will be dead. To succeed in life, you need an opponent to uplift you up. Racism needs to come to an end, and this will be made possible if the white Americans come together and stop discriminating black people. From the videos you have just watched, we get a clear conclusion. White Americans blame themselves to whatever is happening to them. Blame games will not save anything in the long run. We need to have this open conversation to get past them. Don't invalidate anyone's feelings because they are valid, but also take accountability for your side of things. Do you believe on the saying, it really sucks to be an white American? Leave a comment and let's engage. And remember, don't forget to like, subscribe and share. Thank you, family. Bye.